how do you address a leader that is either unwilling to embrace Agile, is very skeptical, or just someone that doesn't want to let go of that old command and control process?
That's a great question. You know, I guess I can say I feel very fortunate that we're not having to deal with that. But when I first started talking about Agile, I was met with some resistance. I was in a different position, but someone that was a peer to me was somewhat resistant to the concept and idea. And so the way I approached it is, you know, it can be a dog on the bone. It's more coming at it from multiple angles of the why, the context, the examples. When we started talking about how we're going to get things done differently in the organization as a result of some of our innovation and our simulated startup, you know, part of what I did was I pulled that same group together, including some of the folks that had been, you know, not just open to changing right away, but there was some openness, and said, look, you know, Rich has been asking for us to do different for a number of years. Let's prove to him once and for all that we can do this. Let's you know, come up with the right game plan. I even didn't know it then, but I was implementing pieces of Agile where I said, okay, we have to have real conversations. We can't walk out of this room and not air our disagreements, and had kind of started that. And so I think just it was sort of a continue to convince, don't give up.
What's interesting about your story, Texas Mutual story, is that you have a lot of stakeholders. And so the command and control mindset and approach can work really well when there's a lot of risk, right? And trying to draw out projects or deliverables so that you can think through all of the potential dilemmas, right? And all of the problems. And having a little bit of empathy for the people that are actually in a command and control. And they won't always be very empathy worthy, right? They'll be difficult to reach because they represent a kind of approach that they have gotten to the levels that they're at because they've been able to be effective, right?
Right, exactly.
So I think part of it is needing to understand that these are people. They may have rough edges. They may be difficult, but they're in their own journey too, right? And sometimes they need to be heard. Yeah. Because what I'll see sometimes is that you do get the grassroots, but it's like pitchforks and torches. We need this now, and you know, banging on the door, and the person's like, if that happens, it feels like it's going to be chaos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So how do we help them, right? And how do we kind of tone it down a little bit? Because you know, this is my own personal thing, is that Agile is amazing, right? The things it can provide you is a legion of good things, but it can also come off as a little bit arrogant, right? And it can come off like, you know, you got to do it exactly this way, and it almost becomes a wedge that divides people instead of a way to bring them together. So for folks who are struggling with that, there are things that we could talk to you about, and there are some things that might be helpful in terms of talking to folks like a Jeanette, right? Now, I'm not going to sign Jeanette up for everybody, but we have a number of clients that would be more than happy to talk to you and to talk to people who are wrestling with it, because the fact is the world is changing, right? And that command and control structure typically won't win out against, you know, an empowered team of 17 or really 20 engaged, energetic, thoughtful, hardworking. I mean, that's David Marquet calls that a tidal wave, right? So, but we don't have to do it without empathy and a concern for people who probably are doing what they're doing generally out of goodness. Let's assume good intent. Right? Let's assume they're trying to do their best. So how do we ease into it? Because you guys didn't go 17 from a cold start, right?
I would say it is contagious once you see it. When you talk about it, in the conceptual and the theoretical, it can seem a little arrogant. I totally agree. And I know people at the company that got sick of hearing the word agile. But once we started actually doing it, and it became tangible, and people started seeing the benefits, it became contagious and it spread. So starting small might be a way to get there. If you can convince someone to take that risk and let them know what's in it for them at the end of the day is a powerful team helping drive business value.
Results and outcomes.
And results,
So that's, and you know, definitely self-serving from Agile Velocity's point of view. We're sort of changing the game a bit for ourselves because we're talking about business outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at the path to agility and there's no Agile jargon on there, right? It is all about business outcomes. Yeah. And we can look at, you want innovation? Let's talk about what we know innovation requires.
Right.
Do you have those things?
Yeah.
No? Okay, well, here's how we would solve them, and Agile is the answer, right? So if people want to be responsive to their market, or they want to be a market leader, or they want an engaged workforce, or they want client success, mm-hmm. right? They want their customers to be satisfied. How do they do that? And I think when you start at the outcomes, it's like, okay, now let's work our way back versus it's this method versus that method, or your style versus my style.
Right.
So let's start with the common ground first. So there's a lot of things we can do, and we love doing this. So obviously reach out and we'd be happy to help.
I can vouch for him.
Thank you.